All right, so let's get started with the motherfucking hurricane bullshit. And then we'll get started. Let's get started. Hurricane bullshit.
And we want to turn back to the emergency response to what is now Tropical Storm Ida. Joining us now, Administrator of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Deanne Criswell. Ms. Criswell, thank you very much for being with us this morning. As the sun comes up over Louisiana, what are you all seeing today?
Good morning, Willie. I've been in contact with my regional administrator who's on the ground in Baton Rouge, embedded with the Emergency Management Office for Louisiana. Some of the initial reports that we're hearing is widespread structural damage and some significant structural damage, possibly even some building collapses. We have over 1 million customers that are without power right now. And we know that there have also been some reports of people calling 911 for assistance to get out of their threatened area. It's going to be significant, and these are only the initial reports. We're going to see more as soon as we get the assessment teams out there this morning.
The power obviously is a huge concern. 1 million residents, as you say, in Louisiana without power, given the late August heat in that state. I assume that's front and center for you all to get the power back on. What does that process look like?
It is definitely a concern. We do have shelters. The state has shelters set up across the state right now. I mean, we're also prepared to move people into hotels until they can get back into their homes safely or identify other long-term solutions. The power company has brought in, I believe, over 6,000, maybe more than that, crews to help restore the power. And there's several other crews from other states that are going to be brought in to support. We also have the Army Corps of Engineers that is ready to support power restoration through the generators for any critical facilities that might need that.
And how do you begin to identify and locate people who, you talked about those 911 calls, people who may not be able to make those calls, elderly people, disabled people, people out of the reach of the immediate city of New Orleans, for example. What's the process like to begin finding them and helping them?
Yeah, the first responders in Louisiana, they know their areas very well, and they're very good at what they do. They know where the areas of most concern are and where they're going to need to go. We have federal resources that are in there to support the search and rescue efforts, and they're coordinating collectively to prioritize the areas that they need to go search.
Wait a minute. Why are they coordinated collectively and not for profit? Obviously, we should be focusing on where we can make the quickest buck in this evacuation. This is some bullshit.
The storm was massive. I don't have to tell you, as we watched the radar yesterday and it reached winds of 150 miles an hour, there was some speculation it might go up and touch a Category 5. It almost got there. From your early assessments, based on your
we're going to see some of what our witness
in Louisiana and Mississippi and elsewhere, how does your projection match up to the reality of what you're seeing this morning?
You know, unfortunately, I think we're going to see more damage.
I don't.
And we want to turn back to the emergency response.
Thank you. I hit a button.
But it stayed a Category 4 storm for hours over southern parts of Louisiana. Having those high winds for several hours, the storm surge for several hours, as well as the intense rainfall. You know, I think as we get up this morning, we're hearing reports, but we're going to see even more destruction. This is going to be a really long recovery.
I know you have a busy morning. We appreciate you taking some time with us. FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell, thanks for being here.
So if you look at, like, this is standard Louisiana construction, by the way, chat, on piles. You've got, what is this called? It's called like a cigar house. Is that it? Louisiana, folks. It's like a cigar house, I think. Maybe it's not a cigar house. What is it? It's like, it has a name. Shotgun house. Okay, sorry. I guessed one plantation thing and got the other. Is it a shotgun house? Yeah. So this is standard New Orleans architecture, also typical of African American communities. And, you know, so as you can expect. The stilts are actually really good if done correctly. Search housing on Dauphin Island. They're like 10 feet tall, kind of wild. Yeah, I know.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty standard New Orleans architecture here. Okay, let's get some of these. Let's go over and watch our Ida coverage. We'll make it. I promise to make it. What is going on? I swear. Some weird ass shit with computers these days. I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. Still, we live in mobile homes, so Mother Nature could blow them away and we have nowhere else to live. Yikes. All right, let's take a look at some of these on-the-ground coverage of what it was like during the middle of the storm. Way too dank. Here's in New Orleans, which is not quite at the heart of the hit. You know, people who stayed inland is understandable. I live in hurricane areas, but those folks who stayed on islands are literally bad shit. I mean, yeah, it's not good, folks. This is what happens is a lot of the roofs just lift right off of structures. In a hospital, you can see roof pull right off one of the structures. All right, this is pretty funny. After the rain stop in Louisiana, free crawfish.
Get in the crawfish, Mike, get in the crawfish. In the cut of Lake Charles. Black way ass is best. Look at him, he thinking about football. Get in there. Take a bite. School game official. School game official. 100. I'm telling you. He saw you miss 100. He's gonna get 100 of these bugs. I'm about to give him a pair of motherfucking leather gloves and let him really go. He don't need them.
I just like the cigarette hanging out of the corner of the corner of free crawfish. Okay, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. All right, chat. Let's keep taking a look at the coverage.
Here is this Esplanade, the street here. To my right is the French.
Why do people keep living in New Orleans? Why do they live in LA? Why do they live anywhere? They live there because that's where they're raised and that's where they've always been from. Also, that's where they have their family, their friends, money, houses. It's kind of a dumb question.
Border, and we're finally getting an idea of what happened, the aftermath of Hurricane Ida, and you can see the destruction behind me. Let's take a walk as we go down this street, which is normally a very nice neighborhood, but it's just been trashed by all of these trees. And this here, you can see this lamp here that's slanted over on top of this car. You can also see these power lines. This is the reason why we have more than 1 million people without power all across Louisiana. Louisiana. And it's also why many of them will remain without power for at least a couple of days, if not weeks, because there's an order of how they have to do things. So first you have to wait for the storm to pass. We've made it to that mark. Now day 2 is going out and assessing the damage, and then you have to clear the debris. So what will it take? What kind of equipment will you need to move these power lines, move this car out of the way, move these big trees, these palm trees that are on the ground? I'm going to duck under these power lines. We're assuming all of them are dead, but just to be safe, you have all of these palm trees now that are blocking the road for people who are trying to get in and out of their house, and that includes emergency crews. So we know that New Orleans EMS is down right now. Their service was down during the height of the storm because it was too dangerous. Imagine an emergency vehicle going up and down this street and the lamp pole falling on a car or one of these trees falling on top of someone. It's the reason why their services were down during the storm, and also people were told to evacuate or find shelter because this is how someone died. We know at least one person died from a tree falling on top of them. Now, we have no cell phone service really throughout the city of New Orleans. Communications are down. Wi-Fi is sketchy. The power is out. All of the above is happening because of Hurricane Ida. No timeline on when we might get power, but this is what people are waking up to. Many of these homes, all of them really in New Orleans, unless they have their own generator, without power this morning. So they had to wait till the sunrise. People are coming out of their homes and seeing what is really destruction left after a Category 4 storm came through this city.
Well, yeah.
Derek, this storm, 13 hours as a Category 4 hurricane, 5 hours over land. Remarkable. It's a tropical storm now, still very dangerous. Walk us through what you have experienced over the past hours here.
150 mile an hour winds, man.
People here in Houma, Louisiana know and are familiar with hurricanes. They know what to expect from a Category 1, 2, 3, even a Category 4. But this storm was different. It was a relentless fury of a pivoting storm that moved over this location for hours. An analogy I've been using, but I think this is an apt way to say it. It is like taking a direct hit from a 50-mile wide EF3 tornado with winds over 140 miles per hour. Talking to residents, talking to some of the evacuees at the hotel that we're located at, they came here to seek shelter. They thought this storm would be more of a storm surge and flood threat. Now, of course, that's ongoing in some locations, but just in our immediate vicinity, the winds have been the major story here. The wind factor will be catastrophic as we get first daylight within the coming hours. Very scary moments, not only for my team, but for the people who seek shelter here. You can imagine the people who don't have sturdy, concrete, reinforced window buildings within the Terrebonne Parish where I'm located, what they went through and what they're going to be waking up to this morning. The sounds of generators humming in the background, all too familiar from previous hurricane chases. We have had helicopters flying overhead, which is unusual because it's still nighttime here. They don't usually do damage assessment until the sunlight comes up. And wow, what a extraordinarily scary situation for the residents here on the ground in Houma, Louisiana. The catastrophic wind will be the big story here.
I mean, so like this is the type of shit. I mean, yeah, we saw this video already. I saw this video already. Yeah. This is before the hurricane. Yeah, not good, folks. Don't be this guy. Don't be this guy. Gotta get the TikToks in. Gotta get the TikToks. Okay. This is something we mentioned yesterday, but Hurricane Ida forces Mississippi River to reverse flow. Storm surge and strong winds from Hurricane Ida stopped the flow of the Mississippi River near New Orleans on Sunday and caused it to reverse. Something that U.S. Geological Survey says is extremely uncommon. You don't think. Yeah. 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 The thing that really bugs me about all this is absolutely no efforts whatsoever to contend with the reality of climate change, and that this stuff is going to get worse. It's not getting better. This isn't like a once in a lifetime hurricane and then we're going to, we got over it, we're done, we made it. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And seemingly at least half the country, or at least a third of the country, I should say, don't want to overestimate their numbers, is just sleepwalking through this shit. What concerns me most is not the storm is mostly past as humidity with heat. For those who are unable to make it out, sewage, rotting food, dead animals, hunger, thirst, all the bacteria and fecal matter. I mean, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that, Goo Karkin. We're coming around to the COVID hog watch again. All of New Orleans without power after Hurricane Ida leaves catastrophic transmission damage. Slow-moving Hurricane Ida has left all of Orleans Parish customers without power due to catastrophic transmission damage. Have they considered maybe putting these transmission cables below ground? I mean, far be it from me to suggest that maybe if you get hurricanes and trees falling on your power lines all the time, you consider burying it. I mean, I know it's more expensive in the short term, but surely having to constantly restring the power lines every year is more expensive in the long run. I live in Alabama and all our power lines for our area are underground because of tornadoes. Yeah. Wouldn't they still be in danger from flooding? Well, you could make them waterproof conduits. Also, we need to encourage the federal government and local governments to invest more in levees for these communities. People in these regions should not be forced to get into a fucking attic as 10 feet of water rushes into a fucking suburban neighborhood. Low-income area levees failed. Oh, is that right? Is that right? Did the low-income levees fail?
Fighting Ida's fury and the mass power outages that came with it. The then Cat 4 hurricane barreling into southern Louisiana with catastrophic force. The deadly storm.
I never even heard of it. People are saying no one's ever heard of this Category 5 stuff.
These are by far
no one's even heard of it.
The strongest winds we've felt so far. The bad part is it's only going to get worse.
Triggering a life-threatening storm surge.
Nobody
exactly
has even
16
heard
years
of
after
it.
Hurricane Katrina made landfall.
Many people.
Thanks, Penguin Survivor 161.
Tested in ways that we can only imagine.
In Grand Isle on the Gulf Coast, terrifying images of Ida's wrath.
That sounds productive, though.
Rising waters and whipping
Al
winds,
Roker being a
leaving
madman?
buildings partially submerged in water.
Okay,
flooding
this
outside
is
the fire
funny.
department, making it
watch this.
impossible for first responders to reach those in need.
Those folks are just going to have to hunker down and wait for the storm to pass.
Massive trees,
Hospitals
no
with no
match
power,
for Ida's
people in the
gusts.
hospital and oxygen
The
vents,
winds
well, yeah, they're
ripping
dead.
off part of a hospital's roof near the
Here it
coast
is,
in
chat.
Galliano and leaving mounds of debris on the streets of New Orleans' French Quarter. The damage so bad, the entire city now without power.
Except for this guy had a generator.
Ida's rapid rise to a Category 4 storm taking even the experts by surprise. Officials counting on improvements made in the years since Katrina to keep people safe.
We were able to tell people to shelter in place with some degree of comfort. Ultimately, if we have to evacuate people post-storm, we will do that.
The Ergen family making the last-minute decision to stay close to their businesses here in New Orleans.
If I knew what I know now, then we would have left, but we ran out of time.
In the lower 9th Ward,
Damn. What is that place? We got ourselves a Nancy Pelosi level fridge here. Is this the new hotness, chat? This white marble on white? Is this the new, like, people inform me, what's the trends in interior design for the upper class white people? White on white is the new trend. The only thing whiter in my kitchen than my countertops is my skin. You hear me? I gotta stay close to my businesses.
Close to their businesses here in New Orleans.
If I knew what I know now then, we would have left, but we ran out of time.
In the lower 9th Ward, scars from Katrina
All right, so this
are
is where
everywhere.
the black people
This
live.
sign means
the
that this
poor
house
people.
was flooded during Katrina.
Chris Washington.
My sister, the reason why she was in New Orleans is she worked for after Katrina, she joined AmeriCorps, and she went and worked for various nonprofits that were rebuilding the lower 9th. That's why I know about the shotgun house. I called it a cigar house. I'm an idiot. But it's from my conversations with her and learning about, the income inequality, how the lower 9th was mostly abandoned. And so she's been down there working on New Orleans and housing issues there for the better part of 10 years now. So actually more than 10 years. God, time flies. And so, yeah. Lower 9th is where like the worst flooding happened during Katrina.
Washington's family left,
Betos,
but
thanks
he
for the
chose
prime,
to
bud.
ride out the
I
storm.
will take your
This
dollars.
area was devastated during Katrina. Do you have faith the levees are going to hold?
Yes, I have faith.
The most vulnerable under threat from the storm. More than 50 seniors reportedly forced to evacuate the Metairie Towers condominiums in the New Orleans area after a partial roof collapse. And Louisiana's Ochsner Health System, already packed with people fighting COVID, now feeling Ida's wrath. This video showing what appears to be pieces of the roof flying off their main campus. Ochsner protectively moving all of their facilities to generator power and making room for patients with storm-related injuries.
Right now, we're just hunkering down and staying put.
And again, hospital officials there at Ochsner Health telling us that they are keeping their patients.
And these reporters love standing under like metal beams that are precariously perched on the ground. Are you okay? You realize this isn't like strapped down, bro. Like something could slide and fall on your head. Like what the fuck are they doing? Malta Joe, thanks for the tier. Like what is going on? Gotta get this. Stand to the side more, idiot.
As safe as they can be, along with the doctors and staff. I want to give you guys an idea of just how dark New Orleans is right now as the sun is starting to rise. There is no power. This is the heart of the French Quarter, guys, and the only lights you see are from cars or from our television cameras. It is pitch black here in the French Quarter, and that's why emergency management officials, the governor, the mayor here, they're all asking people to stay indoors. If you have loved ones who live in southern Louisiana or New Orleans, realize their cell phones right now probably don't work. Guys, back to you.
Sun's set to come up about 25-30 minutes from now. We'll get a full scope of the damage and devastation.
And you said something interesting. You asked the guy, did you think those levees were going to hold up? Well, one thing New Orleans did after Hurricane Katrina, they fortified. They paid billions of dollars to make sure that those levees held. And I do think that if you're looking for good news pieces, the levees did hold in New Orleans and all around. I think there was one levee that had an overtop. But Tom, thank you for that.
Yeah, but it wasn't a direct.
Thanks for watching our YouTube.
It wasn't a direct hit. And speaking of Al, all right, chat. This is my favorite video from yesterday. Oh God, let's go. Let's start. Why, dude? Why do they? Oh, fuck.
Welcome back. We're now going to get an update right now on Hurricane Ida from our friend Today Show co-host Al Roker. He's already in New Orleans, which is in the track of this storm. And Al, this looks like a monster storm that's coming. What can you tell us?
Why don't they set the white guys to the hurricane?
All right, sorry. I guess we lost communications, Chuck. Right now, we are looking at imminent landfall of this storm. Winds of 150 miles per hour are right now forecast, but we expect landfall in the next couple of hours, they will be at 150
He's like one of their most famous people. Why are they putting it in the hurricane?
Upwards of 15 to 16 feet, 20 inches of rain or more with this system. The eye wall,
put Todd in the way of the hurricane,
with 150
please.
mile per hour winds. It's basically a 15-mile wide F3 tornado. That's what's coming in to this area. And so as this system comes in, people have hunkered down. They are doing their best, but I'm telling you, Chuck, the difference between a Category 1 storm and a Category 4, as far as the wind destruction, over 330 times more powerful. So we are waiting for this to make landfall, and once it makes landfall, it's going to slowly make its way inland up through the Mississippi River Valley, Ohio River Valley, and then into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast later on this week.
That actually raises a really important point. I think we need new words. I think we need new words because people think like earthquake. So like a 6 on the Richter scale and a 9 on the Richter scale, that's only 3 points higher. They don't understand that these are logarithmic scales. We need to stop calling like a hurricane, a Category 4, or Category 5 thing a hurricane, the same way like a tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane. We need a different word because it just doesn't, you don't appreciate the scale difference. Oh, it went from a Category 1 to Category 4. Oh, okay. As opposed to like, oh, it went from being a thunderstorm with winds to a fucking 200-mile wide tornado. Maybe people just need to be better educated, Kava. I mean, yeah. I know that people are talking about things like Hypercane or other stuff like that. He said he wanted to do it. All right, hold on.
Powerful storm that is going to wreak real havoc.
Dude. That's for sure. Al Roker, God, get out of that unsafe weather there. Thank you, Al.
This is the funniest part. Yo, Al, get out of the unsafe. So why is there a 70-year-old black man that gets sent down into the hurricane while this lump of mashed potatoes sits in the fucking studio? I mean, can we please stop?
Of your hit on Meet the Press and what happened to you there. Let's have it. You can see you right there. I like to call that the Roker stance. You know, standing strong up against the wind, but the water is slapping around. And at a certain point, it's going to come where the big water hits you. How long?
Yeah, you know, look.
Good edit, by the way.
It's one of these things, and folks on Twitter have been, well, first of all, why is NBC putting him out there? I volunteered to come out here. This is what I do. I've done this for 40 years. Our crews, and we all make sure we're safe. We're not going to do something that's going to put ourselves at harm's way. Right. As much as I love the weather and I love NBC.
What? You're in the fucking hurricane zone. What do you mean you're not putting yourself in harm? That's ridiculous. That's absurd on its face. That's just stupid.
Not going to risk my life for it. Secondly, a number of people, well, he's too old to be doing this. Well, hey, guess what? Screw you, okay? Try to keep up. Keep up, okay? So
Al Roker.
These young punks. I will come after them. I will drop them like a bag of dirt.
Internet a day. How do you think your sub count will be impacted?
Thank you, Peacecraft, for the 500 bits. Not at all. Unfortunately, we don't have the big China crossover at this point. I'm not old. You're old. Fight me. I'm going to drop you like a bag of dirt. Oh, god damn it. Pure Sigma male. Rise and grind. 70 years old? Millionaire? Fuck you. I'm going to the goddamn hurricane. Rise and grind. Rise and grind. All right, what else do we got? Okay, we did the roof thing. We watched the roof. Yeah, we watched that. What do we have left? What do we have left? Oh yeah, the levee wars. So what is going on in New Orleans? Why does everything constantly suck? Why is that every pro Bernie streamer I see on here is talking about nonsense? Bro, I'm not doing drama with Lauren Southern or some other bullshit. I'm talking about a massive hurricane that just slammed into the United States after strengthening in record time from a category 1 to near category 5. I'm about to talk about the levee systems and what the problems we face in the coming years with the catastrophic climate change. What the fuck?
This is Eureka, Missouri, a city that floods repeatedly. We're talking catastrophic floods twice in less than 2 years.
Yet more rain and dangerous flooding are affecting millions in parts of the Midwest and South tonight.
Across the Merrimack River, notorious for flooding very quickly.
Towns like Eureka and others, well, they're in for a rough few days.
But just 12 miles downstream is a town called Valley Park. It stayed pretty dry thanks to a levee, a giant artificial embankment that surrounds the city, designed to keep water out. Valley Park got their levee largely because the city was willing and able to pay for it. It kept their own town dry, but here's what flooding looked like in neighboring towns, including Eureka, that didn't have levees.
The Valley Park levee was stood.
I want you to guess what's the differences between that town and some other towns. Let's keep going.
The water.
That levee holding could be part of the problem.
He suspected the same levee that protected Valley Park may have been to blame for devastating flooding in Fenton, Eureka, and Arnold.
Can a levee protect one town while making flooding worse for others? Especially towns
now,
that
chat, by the way, now that you see these shotgun homes, whenever you see the shotgun homes,
others?
Whenever you see these shotgun
especially
homes,
towns
that protected Valley Park may have been to blame for devastating flooding in Fenton, Eureka, and Arnold.
Can a levee protect one town while making
okay, so whenever you see these shotgun homes, understand this is lower income, typically black homes. Those are who owns these kind of homes. These are lower income homes in the South. So when you see them totally, overtopped with floodwaters, but then you see the white people with their, 15-foot wide refrigerator with the marble countertops remaining perfectly dry,
Others, especially towns that can't afford a levee. A fluid mechanics lab.
I'm a nurse and this sucks RN.
Bewit's Cat, thank you for the tier 1. Hey, listen, we solidarity forever to our nurses. Keep making good trouble. I'm sorry about the idiocy, and I'm sorry about your fellow nurses that are dumb too. That's the thing that's crazy, is how much politics dominates people. So thanks for the resub. Appreciate that.
A 13-foot-long model of a river and some adorable tiny houses will help us find out. People love levees. There's about 100,000 miles of these embankments across the U.S. Sometimes concrete, sometimes earthen. For centuries, we've built them between humans and rivers.
Levee workers
thank you for the 7 months.
by hand,
Pongo
by
indeed.
truck, by boat.
We even write songs about them.
Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry.
If it keeps on raining, levee's going to break.
When the levee breaks,
what is this, the MCA, the show?
But it turns out, even when levees are effective, they can still be devastating. As far back as 1852, levees came with a very important...
to the levee, but the levee was dry. With the good old boys. Yeah, that song, oh God, it's so stupid, but it hits your brain and then it gets stuck. Now you're all going to be singing that shit. For the rest of the day, you're going to be like, I drove my Chevy to the levee. Fuck.
Warning. Charles Ellett Jr., a famed U.S. civil engineer, cautioned that levees confine rivers and cause them to rise higher and flow faster. And relying on levees encourages a false security. But he was largely ignored. Levees became the default for flood control, mostly funded and constructed by local entities. Some riverside communities that could afford it built taller levees for more protection, while less fortunate neighbors dealt with the devastating effects.
Because if it blocks the water from one place, it puts the water somewhere else.
To show you what we mean, we went to the banks of the Mississippi River, to a fluid mechanics lab where a team of engineers from the University of Minnesota built us this landscape model to test flood scenarios. Overhead, a scanner collects 3D data to measure exactly what's happening. It's a generic model of a river with no levees. That means when the water level increases, it overflows and spreads across the floodplain, often creating important wetland habitat that's home to a variety of species. Putting in levees cuts rivers off from this land, destroying floodplains and wetlands. It allows people to convert these areas into farmland or build houses on them. And while levees protect these communities from flooding, they constrict the river into a narrow channel, making the water flow faster and higher. That creates a bottleneck leading to additional flooding upstream. If all levees are the same height, both sides should be about equally protected from the average flood. And if the river rises so much that the water overtops the levee, then both sides should flood pretty equally. But let's say people on one side of the river lobby for higher levees. Now, instead of both sides flooding, only one floods. The side with the lower levees is at a clear disadvantage.
Yeah, that seems pretty obvious,
So
folks.
what can people in flood zones do? We can't just pick up and move major cities. We need levees to protect places like these. There is an alternative. We could build levees.
American cities. Look at this shit. Take a picture of your city for me. Hold on. Look how much land is taken up of this ridiculous highways, dude. What a shithole. Totally stupid, man.
There is an alternative. We could build levees farther back so rivers could still expand and create wetlands. These setback levees ease flooding on both sides rather than protecting one city at the expense of another. This approach is common in other parts of the world, like Holland, for example, but not in the US.
Fuck those other countries. Fuck those other countries. What the fuck do the Dutch know about levees?
We tend to build levees right next to rivers. Some communities that can afford to build higher levees do so
I was
at
being sarcastic. Obviously, the Dutch know more than we do. We're idiots.
the risk of others with little oversight. We do have the Army Corps of
Ooh, thank you. You
Engineers,
can call me
a federal agency tasked with regulating a fraction of all levees. They have to ensure, at least on paper, that federal levees won't dramatically raise local flood levels. But those engineering predictions don't always match reality. For instance, the Army Corps designed Valley Park's levee in the early 90s with data and software from that era. Engineers estimated the levee's impact on neighboring areas would be minimal. But by the time it was completed in 2005, the region had grown significantly. More people had built alongside the river, increasing the risk of flooding, which wasn't considered in the original plan. While we don't know the precise impact of Valley Park's levee on neighboring towns just yet, since the levee was built, the region outside Valley Park has suffered 2 of the worst floods in its history. The Army Corps says they've done nothing wrong and that the levee meets all state and federal laws. But there's a growing body of research that shows levees push flooding onto surrounding communities that have lower levees or no levees at all. Researchers measured water levels around 13 levees in the Midwest and found they all increased flooding, some by over 5 feet. As the climate changes and cities push for higher levees, flooding is only expected to get worse, especially along the Mississippi River, which is almost entirely lined with levees. Some of these embankments have been substantially raised since their completion against federal rules. making flooding worse across the river and upstream. So, yeah, we need some levees, but the system for regulating them is broken. Even though the science...
I think we should have at least 5,000 different local control units that don't coordinate with each other, because that's freedom. Freedom is when things are expensive, ineffective, and stupidly run. We don't want any of that goddamn central planning, okay? We should have local areas all doing their own thing with no coordinated plan. That's the way to do freedom.
Overwhelmingly shows that constructing higher levees makes flooding worse in the long term. We keep building them taller, passing our problems upstream.
If it keeps on raining, levee's going to break.
Damn it, it's fucking stupid motherfuckers.
If it keeps on raining, levee's going to...
Alright, chat. What else do we got? I think we had one more story, right? Didn't I have one more thing? One more thing on this? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, we covered this. A massive transmission tower collapsed in the Mississippi River during Hurricane Ida's impacts, knocking out power to all of New Orleans. A fix could take days or longer. The New Orleans Police Department is deploying anti-looting officers due to the outage. Oh, God, gotta make sure nobody steals a TV. God damn it. Here's Patrick's suggestion. Okay, it's Patrick.
Protect ourselves! I got it! Let's all buy a Krabby Patty! We should lock our doors!
We should call my nephew!
We should dig a moat! We should take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else!
That idea may just be crazy enough to get us all killed!
I once heard someone say that we all think we're SpongeBob. We're all just Squidwards.
In a hurricane, they act as human weather balloons.
That's a wind gust right there. Well, that's a wind gust.
Weather balloons tethered to whatever they can clutch. Sometimes somebody clutches them.
These are probably I've got the Nassau County Sheriff holding me onto the boardwalk.
Some were literally covered with Hurricane Sandy.
I'm going to let you kind of take some of the sand off of your face there.
Somehow some sand got in my mouth.
But that was the least of their problems.
Hey, Rick, get to safer ground.
Glenn, get back behind the building. I don't want you blown away.
Or worse, washed away.
Timing those waves out, watching that water move in. He's been in these situations a lot, by the way.
Oh, yeah, he's been in those situations a lot.
Team.
Yeah.
Okay, whoa. Whoa, hey guys. Whoa.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Meanwhile, beach erosion swallowed a Fox reporter's foot.
Does not look good. Oh, excuse me. Oh, it looks like the sandy walkway out to the beach. It's actually got my boots stuck.
Oh my gosh.
CNN's Jason Carroll stumbled on a scuba diver prepared for flooding near his house.
And if I have to get out, I have scuba gear, I have surfboards, I have a kayak.
Some who boarded up left defiant messages to the storm, comparing her to Hurricane Irene. Hey, Sandy, Irene left her panties here. Come try 'em on. But reporters weren't so full of bravado when the wind left a crane dangling over Manhattan.
I don't mean to sound, chicken about this, but as soon as we saw this and we saw it dangling, we started running from 57.
Hurricanes and high rises.
Yeah, Cradle fucking squash you.
We just had some glass breaking out here. We just had glass breaking.
For some, it was just an excuse to horse around behind a reporter.
Don't go out. You probably can't get out of Atlantic City anyway.
Or even dress up like a horse.
There's a shirtless man jogging wearing a horse mask.
The hurricane horse later tweeted out a picture of himself, but reporters usually don't appreciate pranksters behind their backs.
Big guy there, he can go talk to the people who lose their homes.
From a fake horse to a real deer, WNBC reports this one was rescued after suffering a broken leg. Imagine getting that deer in the headlights look from a deer in the surf. Ginny Mo, CNN, New York.
Aww. Aww. Well, Chad, I hope if you're down in New Orleans or in the Gulf Coast, I wish you the best. I assume some percentage of our viewers are now without power, which sucks to hear, but I hope you're all doing okay.